In the vast, often perplexing tapestry of the book of Genesis, one encounters a narrative that challenges our understanding of human relationships, divine intentions, and the intricate dynamics of family and legacy. The story of Jacob, his sons, and the blessings he bestows upon them is a prime example of this complexity. At its heart, it is a tale of favoritism, rivalry, and the profound implications of a patriarch's final words. This video delves into the third moment of invidious comparison between Judah and Joseph, as it unfolds in the final chapters of Genesis, and explores how this moment reflects broader themes of divine intervention, human agency, and the construction of identity in the biblical narrative. Jacob's decision to bless Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, while ignoring Judah's sons, Perez and Zerah, is a pivotal moment that sets the stage for the future division of the Israelite monarchy. This act of favoritism is not merely a personal preference, but a strategic choice that carries significant political and spiritual weight. By adopting and blessing Joseph's sons, Jacob is not only acknowledging Joseph's extraordinary achievements, but also laying the foundation for the northern kingdom of Israel, which will be dominated by the house of Joseph. In contrast, Judah's sons are overlooked, and this omission foreshadows the southern kingdom of Judah, centered around Jerusalem. The significance of Jacob's blessing to Joseph is further emphasized by his reference to the city of Shechem. Shechem is a place of both triumph and tragedy in the biblical narrative. It was the site where Simon and Levi, two of Jacob's sons, committed a violent act of retribution against the city's inhabitants. It was also the place where Joseph, innocently searching for his brothers, was betrayed and sold into slavery. By alluding to Shechem, Jacob is not only linking Joseph's blessing to a place of historical importance, but also subtly acknowledging the complex and often violent nature of his sons' interactions. This choice of words reflects a deeper narrative strategy, one that emphasizes the role of human actions and their consequences in the divine plan. Jacob's oracle, delivered on his deathbed, is a powerful and poetic text that reveals the biases and aspirations of the northern kingdom. The oracle is not a neutral prophecy, but a polemic that elevates Joseph above his brothers. While Judah's blessing is eloquent and acknowledges his power, it is also tinged with a recognition of his violent tendencies. Judah is described as a lion's whelp, a powerful and fearsome creature, but one whose strength is derived from aggression. This portrayal of Judah is a double-edged sword, acknowledging his might, but also warning of the dangers of unchecked violence. The contrast between Joseph and Judah is stark. Joseph, by the time of Jacob's blessing, has already demonstrated his exceptional qualities. He has risen to a position of great power in Egypt, showing wisdom, leadership, and kindness. His career is a testament to his merit, and Jacob's blessing, while not explicitly stated as such, implies that Joseph's achievements have earned him this favor. This recognition of merit is a significant departure from the earlier biblical narrative, where God's choices often seemed arbitrary or based on divine will alone. In the case of Joseph, the narrative suggests that God's favor is, at least in part, a response to human qualities and actions. The emergence of God as a character who responds to human differences is a crucial development in the biblical narrative. Up to this point, God's actions have often appeared gratuitous, with little apparent connection to human qualities or deeds. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were chosen by God without any clear indication of why they were selected. However, with Joseph, the narrative begins to hint at a more nuanced relationship between God and humanity. Joseph's rise to power and his eventual blessing by Jacob suggest that God is beginning to take human qualities and actions into account in his decisions. This shift in the portrayal of God is not just a literary device, but a fundamental shift in the understanding of divine-human relations. It suggests a God who is more engaged with the human world and more responsive to human actions. This God is not a distant, impersonal force, but a character who is deeply involved in the human story. The narrative of Joseph, with its emphasis on merit and human agency, foreshadows the later development of the biblical narrative, where God's interactions with humanity become more complex and multifaceted. However, the emergence of a God who responds to human qualities also raises important questions about the nature of divine sovereignty and human responsibility. If God's choices are, in part, based on human actions, what does this mean for the concept of divine will? Does it suggest that God's plans are subject to human influence? Or does it indicate that God's will is realized through human actions? These questions are not fully resolved in the biblical narrative, but they are central to the ongoing dialogue between the divine and the human. The complexity of God's character is further highlighted by the unique relationship between God and humanity in the biblical narrative. Unlike the gods of polytheistic religions, who may have their own adventures and social lives, the God of the Bible is entirely focused on humanity. He does not engage in purely divine activities. His actions are always directed towards and in interaction with human beings. This focus on humanity is a defining characteristic of the biblical God and sets him apart from other divine figures in literature and mythology. The biblical God is a protagonist who is both the creator and the shaper of the human scene. He creates the human antagonist, whose interactions with him drive the narrative forward. This relationship is symbiotic, with both God and humanity depending on each other for their identity and purpose. God's dependence on humanity is a profound and often overlooked aspect of the biblical narrative. While human beings are clearly dependent on God for their existence and guidance, God's actions and decisions are also shaped by human actions and responses. This interdependence complicates the traditional understanding of God as an all-powerful, sovereign being, and introduces a more dynamic and interactive relationship between the divine and the human. The biblical God's speech and actions are also characterized by their focus on humanity. Unlike the gods of polytheistic religions, who may engage in soliloquy or have private lives, the biblical God never talks to himself or engages in purely divine activities. His words and actions are always directed at and in interaction with human beings. This focus on humanity is a defining feature of the biblical God and sets him apart from other divine figures in literature and mythology. The biblical God's manner is marked by a confident, directive approach, but it is also characterized by a process of discovery. God does not have a predetermined plan that he rigidly follows. Instead, he discovers his intentions and desires through his interactions with humanity. This process of discovery is evident in the biblical narrative, where God often expresses disappointment or anger with human actions, but also adjusts his plans and strategies in response to human behavior. This dynamic relationship between God and humanity is a central theme in the biblical narrative and is essential to understanding the character of the biblical God. The biblical God is also a character who is constantly shaping and reshaping humanity in his image. This process of shaping is not a one-time event, but an ongoing, dynamic process that is driven by God's desire for humanity to become his image. The quest to become the image of God is a central theme in the biblical narrative and is closely tied to the concept of human responsibility and moral development. God's direction and guidance are not arbitrary commands, but are aimed at helping humanity achieve this higher purpose. However, this process of shaping is not always straightforward or predictable. God's intentions and desires are often revealed through his interactions with humanity, and these interactions can be complex and sometimes contradictory. The biblical narrative is full of examples where God's plans and strategies are adjusted in response to human actions. This dynamic and interactive relationship between God and humanity is a defining feature of the biblical God and sets him apart from other divine figures in literature and mythology. In conclusion, the third moment of invidious comparison between Judah and Joseph in the book of Genesis is a crucial turning point that reflects broader themes of divine intervention, human agency, and the construction of identity in the biblical narrative. Jacob's blessing of Joseph's sons and the contrast between Joseph and Judah highlight the complex and often paradoxical relationship between God and humanity. This relationship is characterized by a God who is both the creator and the shaper of the human scene. A God who is deeply engaged with the human world and responsive to human actions. The biblical God is a unique and compelling character who challenges our understanding of divine human relations and offers a rich and multifaceted perspective on the nature of God and the human condition.